Hi, this is Denise Matthew. Hope you're doing well. Back again for another week of the transits. And I just wanted to mention something really quick before we got into the transits. I just wanted to say that I actually did a collaboration with a friend of mine. His name is Raphael, and his channel is called Reydiant Reality. So I'm going to leave the link below in case anybody wanted to watch it, because I did do quite a bit of talking about the Mercury retrograde, some of the themes that we might be experiencing for the Mercury retrograde. I pulled a human design card, and he pulled a tarot card, a couple tarot cards for all the signs. So if you're interested in that, I will leave the link below, and you can check it out. Other than that, we continue with the mandala of life. And if you haven't started following it yet, you're always welcome to start. As well as I have a daily updates that I'm writing in the community tab, so that anybody who wants to know what the transits are, what's happening, the energy, and also I go line by line for all the gates. So it's just something to keep in mind. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad to have you. And anybody who's back for another go, it's nice to see you again. So with that said, let's get into this week's transits. So we're officially in eclipse season, as well as now we are officially in Mercury retrograde. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit in a minute, but just to let you know that it is Mercury retrograde, and we will be in Mercury retrograde from now until June 22nd. So for right now, we have the sun in the gate 16, and the gate 16 we talked about quite a bit last week. It is the logical talent. And what's interesting is that on June 1st, we're going to go into what would be considered experiential talent. So the gate 16 is this enthusiasm. So we could talk about the talent as in, like I said, the enthusiasm. This is that drive that to find something that you really want to take to mastery. So in other words, it's something that you really like doing, and you think, yeah, I could stick with this for a while, and I can get better and better and try to be the best that I can be. There's always this level of trying to search for perfection or move towards perfection with anything that is logical, because it is just always improving on the pattern. But we know in reality, there is no level of perfection, and we can only get better and better compared to what we used to be. There can be a tendency to want to compare yourself to others, and sometimes this can happen with this type of energy. But the other thing is like I said, it is just getting better and better on your own, and really comparing yourself against yourself, and where you have been and where you're going. And that's what this energy is about. So it truly is this thing that you continue to do over and over and over again until eventually it gets better. I did talk about Malcolm Gladwell and Outliers, the book Outliers, and it is about the 10,000 hours you need to put in to become a master in certain things. And it gets to the point where it no longer is something that you're thinking about. It's something that you're fully, just like you just jump in the car. For instance, if you're a master at driving, you jump in the car and you just don't even have to think about what you're going to do. It just becomes a natural part of what you're doing. So this talent that we're looking for could be anything really. And there could have been a lot of searching for this talent. Now, the gate 16 is part of the 1648 channel, and this is also called the channel of talent, where the gate 16 comes in with the enthusiasm and excitement to start this new thing. The gate 48 goes to the depths and starts to bring things to mastery. There can be some level of inadequacy in this energy as well when they sort of link up. And that's just, it may not be as bad with the 1648, because there is some flow and there is more balance with the energy. And so hanging gate 48 can sometimes feel a little bit more inadequate, or like you're not really ready. You need one more step in your progress before you actually get to the point where you start to feel like you're good enough to show what you have to the world. But the key with the gate 48 is always that you are definitely usually ready to get out and show the world what you know. But usually with the gate 16, there can be this enthusiasm to jump out into the world and start talking about all the things that you know, and maybe you don't necessarily have the depth that you get with the gate 48. Again, the gate 16 is a throat gate, and on June 1st, we're moving to another throat gate, and that is the gate 35. And like I said, this is a talent for experiences. So the gate 16, you could say, is a gate of skills and the mastery and talent in skills. The gate 35 is that person that you can go to who has had a lot of experience in their life. They've done a lot of different things, and they can tell you a story about all of it. The gate 16 is always logic, and it's predicting the patterns of the future. So this can be some intuition of looking into the future. The gate 35 is truly looking into the past, telling the stories of the past. And the gate 35 and all of abstract energy really talk to the idea of how we pass our stories on, and how we have definitely evolved a lot quicker than before we were actually passing stories on or writing stories or those types of things. Nowadays, everything is on the internet. So everybody can have access to information from hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands of years, whereas before we never would have had that. So the whole point of abstract energy is to propel humanity forward. And that's exactly what it's been doing, because every experience is documented by people and people have access to it. So that's the kind of energy we're talking about with the sun. And in the real world, we could be looking at this concept of just wanting to get back out there and do something that you haven't done before. And the experience of the Gate 35 is less of that sort of inexperience where you want to just jump in and start something of the Gate 36. It is instead more of this concept of truly wanting to make the experience worth your while. Like, I just not jumping in and saying, oh, I'll just do anything. This is like, I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is going to give me something good in return. This is actually hooking into the to Neptune now, and that will be hooking in for the next couple of days. We will notice that Mercury will hook in. What I mean by that is going to make a full channel of the 3536, and this is a manifesting channel. So what that says is that in the body graph, you can see here that we have the full channel of the 3536. And when we talk about a manifesting channel, we are talking about a channel that has a motor that goes directly to the throat. It doesn't go through any other center before it actually gets to the throat. And there's only 4 of them that actually do that: the 3536, the 1222, also the 3420 or the 2034, and as well as the 4521. All of those bring a motor directly to the throat. So for the 3420, it's the sacral. For the 2145, it's the will center. And for the 3536 is 12 and 1222, it's the emotional center. So that we do know that there isn't a lot of emotional energy attached to the channel 3536. So we know that that's going to be part of the energy. There's this emotional attachment as well to getting these experiences to going out. We also have Neptune in the mix, which really talks to the idea of not having a full picture about exactly what we're going to get. So we might have sort of all these plans of what we want to do, all the experiences we want to plan and make and go out and do. And we may not necessarily get what we want, but we will get something. And I think if you're open to what you get, then it'll be easier for you to sort of, like moderate what's happening in the world or what's happening in your day, like sort of moderate your expectations. And truly with the Gate 35 and any abstract energy, it is about this idea of the journey is just as important, if not more important than the actual destination. And that's the reality, because the only thing that endures is memories. And when everything is said and done, and that goes back to this idea of the memories that we can find all over the internet of history and those types of things that have allowed us to make big strides in humanity because of it. And within the energy of the 3536 and within the 35 on its own is this expectation of getting something specific. And so that can, like, if you really have big expectations for something you're going to do and it doesn't really it doesn't really live up to those expectations, then a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of disappointment in this. And that can happen with just about anything with the abstract energy. So the key with this is really to be open and hold your expectation, hold it loosely, hold the experience loosely, see what you can get out of it. Maybe you're meant to go on a vacation where you're meant to be swimming, but instead you end up doing more walking on the beach or something like that because the water is too rough or something like that. There is still beauty in that vacation, but you just have to sort of see the beauty as opposed to saying it only has to be this way. And if it isn't, then I'm not going to be satisfied with it. And that's the whole bottom line, is the satisfaction in the Gate 35 and also the 3536 channel. It's fleeting. You get to that point and then suddenly it just kind of like everything, well, all that excitement, enthusiasm, or whatever, the emotional energy sort of deflates, and then you're saying, okay, well, what's next? What's the new thing? And that's why we have to look at the idea of documenting within our minds or within our memories all the things that we're doing and all the places we're going and all the experiences we're having, so that we can remember them. Because when it's all said and done, that's pretty much all we have left over. And if you don't even have a memory, then it's not going to feel like the experience was worthwhile. But if at least you had a memory, You feel like there was some substance to what you actually did. And that's the thing about these experiences that you can have. Right now, the Earth is in the gate 9, and that is actually connecting with or coming in conjunct with the nodes, and that would be the south node. Now, the gate 9 is about all the things that we're collecting, all the small things we do that lead to something big, that, like a bigger project or a bigger something happening. So I think that a lot of times we get so hooked into this concept of the big everything. Like, I want everything in one shot, and I don't want to have to wait for anything. The thing about the small details is that every little thing, and I talked about it last week, and I talked about it being sort of like all these bricks, and you're collecting all these bricks. Well, that's what it's all about. It is about collecting all these things, or even you could say stepping stones for your path in life or path towards your goal. So you're collecting those things, and eventually you'll reach the goal that you're looking for. The thing about this is that sometimes you get so wrapped up in collecting the stones and collecting all those things that you want to bring in the future, all the pieces or details for the future or the goal or whatever you want to make happen, that you forget to actually put them all together and sort of try and make something happen or bring something into reality. And what's good is that I'm jumping ahead, but just because we're talking about the gate 9, I just want to sort of connect them so we know what kind of energy we're having. And so, because we do have Venus on June 6th going into the gate 52, which is the harmonic or the other half of the channel of the gate 952. The gate 9, like I said, is always collecting details, but almost sometimes you can get obsessed with just collecting and making the plans, or not even making the plans, but just collecting all the little things that you need, and maybe you're collecting way more than you need, but you don't sit with it and start to assemble it into something that you need. So for instance, if you were making a collage or something and you had a lot of pictures and all you did was keep cutting pictures out, but you never really pasted them on a board, or like people do vision boards. So you have all the images of the things you want to put on your vision board, but instead of actually putting them on the vision board, you just keep cutting out more and more pictures. What we might have come out of it potentially is this idea that we start to make that vision board. We start to put all those things together so that we have some sort of an idea of something that we want to bring into manifestation, or to sort of goals that we're starting to iron out. So that's something that we can look forward to. Will give more of a balance. It also will give a sacral and root energy definition between the sacral and the root. So for the body graph, we could see that the 952 is down here, so it's between the sacral and the root. And so that if you don't normally have a defined sacral all the time, then it's something to keep in mind, that once that happens, that you might feel this energy. Even somebody with an open root, a lot of times when you have an open root, you're driven to always be rushing around and trying to get things done, and you always have a list of things you have done. Or the other opposite is that you need a lot of pressure to get yourself moving. This might bring more balance to it, and it is logical energy, which seems to be really becoming quite prevalent in the energy of all the transits that we're doing. The Earth in the gate 9 is just finishing up, and I just wanted to speak to the nodes just so we know. And so the south node, like I said, it could be something that we've already done, and we're starting to bring it into more of a focus of exactly what we want to do, or that type of thing. And it could be like this revision, or laying down the plans for eventually when we're going to move forward. And because Mercury is retrograde right now, this is actually a great time to be doing all those things, to be revising, to be looking at things, to be laying out the plans, organizing what you want to do in the future, and being ready for when Mercury goes direct again, to actually be able to go out and start doing those things. June 1st, we have the Earth moving into the gate 5. The gate 5 is all about patience. It's all about regular routines. When you carry this energy, generally you're somebody who likes regular routines. You may not like to have things change. And if you drink a specific type of coffee every day, you want that specific coffee. If you eat a specific type of ketchup, you want that specific type of ketchup. And it is a very routine energy that you feel very comfortable in the routine. And if it gets thrown off, it can make you uncomfortable. It is part of the 515 channel. And because of the transits again, we will see a full channel on June 1st as well. As long as the Earth is in the gate 5, we will have the full 515 channel, which you can see here, the full 515 channel. Now, the 15 is all about extremes, which by itself, I think would be a little bit more concerning, because it is extremes. And we do know that the gate 15 is the love of humanity. but there is that level of extremism that can happen. I mean, you could look at, for instance, the extremism of people who are in specific environmental causes, and maybe they'll go and I've heard of people like chaining themselves to trucks or things like that so that they can prevent people from maybe sort of doing clear cutting and those types of things. So there is that level of believing in humanity so much, or love of humanity, that you are willing to take extreme measures to sort of preserve that thing, that whatever it is that you're trying to preserve. The two gates act very differently apart, and so that's why when you get a full channel, like you will with the for the next, I guess you're going to get it for about 5 days. When you get the full channel, it does talk to this idea of the it's the flow. This really is one of the energies that talk to the flow of humanity, or the flow of the environment. If you have the 515 as a full channel in your body graph, it does talk to the idea of you sort of setting the flow for everybody in your aura. This is considered someone with a big aura, or somebody who's quite magnetic in who they are, and people just want to sort of walk in step with them. So in other words, if you have those Newton's cradle, yeah, Newton's cradle, where the balls kind of always go in the same pattern and they start to follow the same pattern. Well, that would, you could say that that's kind of the human version of it. The 515 would be the human version of people being in the same flow as you. The other thing about the 515, which is nice as opposed to having the gates not being like one channel and they're flowing together, is that it does talk to the idea of any of the tantric channels, or the channels that are between the sacral and the identity center. Really talk to the idea of raising the energy. It does talk to a higher expression of energy. So you're starting at a specific level of energy and you're bringing the energy up. So if we think about bringing the aura up in an environment, this is kind of the energy that would do that. And when I mean by up, I mean, bringing the higher expression of the energy of the flow of humanity, the love of humanity, and how we can get in the patterns of life to sort of move forward humanity, and of evolution too, because this is logical energy. It is about the patterns of life and the things that we do to evolve, to go further into the world. And like I said, we do have a lot of logical energy, and this is just one more channel that's going to talk to that. So we'll have the 952 at some point, the 515, and also we're having collective energy, not logical abstract. We have the 3536. So a lot of collective energy as well as logical energy. So it is kind of moving away from the individual energy we've been feeling for the last couple of weeks or month, and over a month really, and moving into something that's more about the patterns. And I do feel that this is going to talk to the idea of of truly getting back in the flow. And the 515 is about the flow, getting back in the flow of life, of humanity, because we did have such a standstill or a stop in 2020. So it does really speak to this idea of moving forward and getting back online with a lot of things in the world. I could talk about the gate 5 and its expression, but I think that we'll be more likely to see the 515 energy as opposed to just the 5. Right now, like I said, Mercury's in retrograde. So we do have 3 gates that we're going to be transiting for the whole of Mercury. And we're actually going to be transiting these gates until probably about mid-July. So it's energy that is going to be the theme. And what's interesting is that they're all throat gates. We have the gate 12, the gate 45, and the gate 35, which isn't here, but the gate 35 is going to be in the sun this week. So it is, again, this throat energy, and it's always talking to manifestation. These are all manifesting channels. And when I talk about a manifesting channel, like I said, it's this idea of having a motor right to the throat. My feeling about the energy that we're revising and going over and these particular gates is that it is speaking to this concept of, and especially because it is in the sign of Gemini, and Mercury is that's its home in Gemini, and it's very comfortable there and very powerful. And the thing about Gemini is, because it is what they consider a double-bodied sign, it talks about doing things twice. And because of that, what I feel that this might be is that we might have another opportunity to actually bring that thing that we weren't able to bring into manifestation before. Like, say 2020, you had a bunch of plans or things that you wanted to make happen, and it just never did because the world was completely stopped, and things just were not working. This is talking to the idea that maybe you can bring something back. Maybe you can give it another try. Now, I wouldn't say that this is energy that we're going to, that you necessarily can go out and just start a brand new business or start something brand new. But I really do believe that there is potential. If it is something that you've tried before, you've put the energy in, and it just, you never got the ability to get it out there to do that thing that you wanted to do with it. There is that potential. I think that we can see some of this energy working to your benefit to actually make things happen, because it is manifestation. So right now, Mercury's in the gate 12, and that does speak to this idea of individual energy. There could be potential for melancholy here. There could be potential, if you have a gate hanging in gate 22, to be emotionally charged, a little more passionate about things. And even if you have just the gate 12, you could feel some energy there too. The gate 12 is all about, especially with the Mercury retrograde, maybe we want to get back into socialization. Maybe we want to get back into being out with people, or whatever that might be. The key with the gate 12 is to always to thyself be true. And what that means is that if you want to go out because you want to, not because you feel forced to or feel obligated to. Because with the gate 12, it is this energy that if you're not in the mood, you're not necessarily going to have fun, and you're not going to be fun for anybody else. And it's just better for you to live your own truth, and be authentically you, and listen to the voice that says, no, this is not time for me to go out into the world, or this is not time for me to socialize. But if you feel like you want to, then definitely go ahead and do it. So that's where the caution comes from the gate 12. Mercury is in this energy, which talks to the idea of expressing ourselves. And so it means it's even more potent to be out in the world if we don't want to be, and not be very articulate, basically, because this is the gate of articulation or not. So in other words, you're very clear and specific and well spoken when it's the right time, but not necessarily the case if it isn't. The other thing about the gate 12 is, like I said, there is this level of potential melancholy. The melancholy is just this idea that you don't have anybody worthwhile to listen to what you have to say. And because it is something, throat gate, there is potential for manifestation. There is potential for bringing things into reality as well. June 7th, we have the Mercury going into the gate 45. Now, the gate 45 will be transited for a good part of the Mercury retrograde. So this will be the energy that we'll be experiencing the most of all the three gates. This is all about leadership. This is all about tribal energy. When we talk about tribal energy, we're always talking about something that is mundane, and it is about the basics that we need in life. Now, when I talk about mundane, that's not a bad thing. It is just the reality that as humans, we need food, we need shelter, we need relationships, support, and all those types of things. The gate 45 and all the tribal energy talks to support. How are we going to get the support or the resources that we need in order to support the people that we need to support, or to support the tribe? This is the voice of the tribe. This is the leadership energy. This is a leadership that is based on the idea that you as a leader are giving your tribe, or the people that are listening to you or following you, you're giving them benefit and they give it back. It's a reciprocal energy. The gate 45 is really the delegator. This is the person that's going around and telling everybody what they need to do, but not necessarily doing the work with everybody else. This comes with a sense of entitlement. But as long as that entitlement is used in the best possible way, in that it's helping the tribe, and they're getting the benefit, but you're also getting this, that sense of entitlement, and it's a win-win, then it's going to be fine. But if you start to dally away and start to say, well, I'm just going to take what I want, and it's not necessarily important if I give anything back, then that's when this energy can go wrong, and that's when leaders will potentially fall. So what this is saying is that if you're reviewing, in the Mercury retrograde, we can think about the way we lead, the way we bring our sense of leadership to the world. It does also talk about the idea that the leadership can bring education or new things or new products to the world, and something that's of benefit, something that's practical. So you could be thinking about ideas that are more practical, things that you can bring into the world that will help the tribe or help anybody, the collective, and that can actually generate some level of abundance or resources. So this could be planning to make some ventures that you want to do in the future, some ways of bringing things into the world that can bring some level of money to you, you, but also that have benefit for people. And again, this is something that would be, it's a two-way street. It can't just be going out and just saying this is good for me, but it's not necessarily good for you, because it doesn't work well that way. Because as soon as a leader loses face, then that's it. They lose their leadership, no matter how much they feel like they're entitled to it. So that's what kind of the energy that we're looking at. And the gate 35, I will talk about that next week, because like I said, we'll be having it for the next 3 weeks. And the gate 35, the interesting thing about it is that it will only be in the line 6. And the line 6 talks to the idea of this need for experience, but the need for experience is related to the idea that you want to better yourself for the experience, basically. And that would be the gate 45 too, this betterment of bringing something for the betterment of the world. And we already talked about Venus quite a bit. Venus is actually meeting with Mercury right now as we speak, and which is unusual, because usually Venus is a bit slower than Mercury, but it's caught up because Mercury is going retrograde. And this is just, when we talk about Venus, it is relationships and being cautious in relationships, and being social or not in relationships. Well, say you're in a relationship with somebody and they want to go out and hang out, or they want to be with you or something like that, and you don't necessarily feel that you want to. Well, if you don't listen to the way you want to work with that, then that could cause issues, because you're not necessarily in the mood. And when you're not in the mood, then that may not necessarily work out well. So just again, with the gate 12, it is to listen to that inner voice or the mood or whatever, and allow it to whenever possible, to decide, like you can decide based on what you feel, whenever possible, to do or not to, and or to speak or not speak. And especially when we're talking about Mercury, like especially now until whenever Mercury is transiting the gate 12, and it will transit the gate 12 later on, but it is speaking from a voice of authenticity and a voice of not trying to pretend you're somebody other than who you are. Just be yourself and everything works well. But if you're trying to be somebody else, then this is when you can be called out for it. So that's why it's really important when, especially anytime, it's important to be authentic with the gate 12, but especially when we're talking about when Mercury is transiting the gate 12. Right now, Mars is in the gate 62, another practical energy. We talked about that last week. And this is just talking to the idea of this need or want to get the patterns up and running again, and potential for ideas for the future patterns, how they can be brought into the world. And the future patterns, of course, have to have this level of practicality. This can also talk about breaking down concepts that are difficult and breaking them into smaller bite-sized information that we can understand more. And there could be a lot of this energy to make things more accessible to everybody instead of just certain people. There could be some more experimentations for what works and what doesn't, taking those ideas and kind of being out in the world and saying, okay, let's give this a try. Does this work or not work? And there's a little bit more force behind it, because Mars is transiting this gate. There's going to be more force to try the new things and to step outside and to start to test some theories that you might have been having floating around in your mind, and start to test them and say, see how they work, and what needs to be changed. Do they need to be tweaked? But like I said, with a lot of logical energy, we have a lot of people out there trying new things and experiences and patterns, and just really trying to get things back going to where they were before, and trying to get some level of normalcy. That's what it feels like. It does feel like the collective is trying to bring some normalcy back to the world, or back to humanity, as much as they can. I mean, there are places that's not actually possible, but anywhere where there is some glimmer of an ability to start to move on track. And when I say normalcy, I don't mean that everything's going to go back to it the way it used to be before everything sort of changed, but it will be the new something, new normal pattern, we could say. June 6th, we have Mars moving into the gate 56. And I really like this moving into the gate 56 when we do have Mercury retrograde, because it does talk to the idea of documenting those stories of experiences you have had, because this is in connection to, this is another abstract energy gate. And this talks to the idea of having the experiences, and from those experiences, we have the memories and we document it. That's why this is the energy of writing it down. Potentially, if you want to, you could be a great storyteller, an orator. You don't necessarily have to write the stories down. Like, for instance, Ra Uruhu was, I think he didn't write any of his information or his books or any of the things that are left over for people to study. He didn't actually write them. He just spoke them. He did have the 2343, and he did have a lot of this unconscious channeling of information. But having said that, he was a storyteller. He did talk a lot about stories of his family, his past, and things that happened to him, that through it made it more relatable to the people that were listening to him talk about his stories. And that is what this energy is about. So it could be speaking the stories, or it could be writing the stories. Because Mercury is retrograde at the same time, it could be this idea that you want to sit down and start writing some things that you've always wanted to write. Or some people will start autobiographies. Some people will just kind of document experiences that they've had, and maybe people will write about 2020, what it used to be. And this could be the time when people really sit down and start to think about, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to basically keep the memories that we've had and put them in a way that other people can benefit from them in the future? So there can be a lot of reflection on the past. And with Mars, we could be hearing stories. Maybe there is some level of creativity in this as well. So your experiences can be woven with the creative expression. So this fantasy could be interwoven with the actual experiences that you have. And that's what a lot of stories come from. They come from a person's experience, but they actually weave it into a story, so it becomes a part of somebody else's story, but not necessarily the exact story of what happened. And that's fiction. And with Mars, we could think about stories of Martian themes. So stories of conflict or things that happened in the past. And so when I talk about stories of conflict and war and those types of things, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's not nice or something like that. I mean, I don't think there's any more beautiful story than the story of War Horse, told from the point of view of a horse. And I mean, I saw the movie, I didn't read the book, but it is a beautiful story, and it does document the conflicts and the things that we've had as humans. And I think that we've had a lot of conflicts in the world, and those things are just as important as the beautiful things, because they all just show some level of resilience of humanity. And in this case, it was a resilience of a horse, and how it sort of made it through all the different things that it had to endure. So that's the kind of energy that I could imagine with Mars in this energy. So we'll see how it works out. And that's it for the transits for the week. I hope you enjoyed them. And I will be back again next week with more transits. And next week, it will be the eclipse. It's going to be the solar eclipse in Gemini. And I will talk about that. And thanks so much for being here. And I will see you again. Take care. Bye for now.